We all know Yoji Shinkawa is the Metal Gear Solid character designer. An artist with a unique style that looks realistic but is without a doubt manga. However, what makes his art worth so much? And oh so popular. Are it his ink strokes? The way he draws the eyes? How he uses shadows and highlights to his advantage? Or are it his pretty girls and mature women?
Tasty.
Or is it him drawing heroic old men that just don't die?
This is Snake.
Well, it's all that and more, but the thing is, when we analyze and break down Yoji Shinkawa's art, we all want to know how he does what he does.
Kept you waiting, huh?
Despite that his art books sell for a ton, I regularly check out his artworks, and decided to challenge myself to reproduce his fundamentals by drawing yet another one of Snake's evil brothers. Gas Snake, and he's going to John Wick the shit out of Shadow Moses.
A name means nothing on the battlefield. After a week, no one has a name.
Imposters aside, one of Yoji Shinkawa's biggest strengths is how he draws the eyes. And to him, drawing them in a normal way isn't challenging enough. He tends to paint with an ever-changing variety of strokes in the iris and pupils and connect them to the edges. Also, more often than not, he uses strong eyelashes, like big chunks that move outwards. Of course, this does depend on the distance. For close-up full portrait art, he naturally adds more detail compared to the far-away body shots, whereas in the latter he tends to block out the whole segment. When we compare the eyes and focus on both sides, we see there's a deliberate asymmetric difference. Yeah, indeed, he's a master of this concept. No, to be fair, he's a genius at it because he pulls it off so convincingly in his design, composition and ink strokes. And especially the latter is the one thing we need to deep dive on, because it's the key component to actually get him. So if you're an artist that wants to recreate Shinkawa's style, it's important to note that his main art tool is a black ink brush. This doesn't mean that he never uses a pen or whatever, but when he does, it mainly has a soft tip, like a pen brush. Okay, so to elaborate a bit on the technical aspect of his line strokes, the brush has 3 main pressure points, which give these small, medium and thick strokes, and they all can occur in just one movement. As you can imagine, there are a dozen of techniques how to effectively use it. The nuances depends on details like your elbow motion, steadiness, angle of the brush, pressure and the amount of ink used. All that and more can create these various lines which Yoji Shinkawa is a master at. Like in these examples, where he's either starting or ending with thick and thin sharp edges. Also, for the fainter strokes he uses minimal pressure, less ink on the brush, or dilutes by adding more water. Indeed, the more diluted the ink, the greater the tone. The less ink, the more sheer effect. Moreover, he sometimes steps ever so lightly with the brush to create a slight dotted effect. All pretty cool details I'm sharing here with you, to be honest. For most of his character art, he likes to use wavy lines with some sharp, angular strokes in between. To increase the gesture, he uses thick lines, which he also tends to use for the parts that are closer to us. Nonetheless, this is more of a technical thing, and as an artist, he loves to break the boring rules.
I'm done here.
Also, one thing to remember, he sometimes uses white paint as a finishing touch. This makes it easy to highlight things like the eyes and the hair. However, he's quite graceful with his usage, and he has to because it's easy to screw up. So did he invent this whole ink style? No. It's like this old Japanese art style that captures the spirit of the subject. And maybe you somehow also recognize his works as like these cool kanji characters. Indeed, Japanese kids learn how to use an ink brush in kindergarten to practice calligraphy writing. Actually, this shows that Shinkawa is very deliberate on his line placement, even in his rough sketches. And if we for fun just start to chip away tiny bits of his art, we quickly mess up the whole piece. So yes indeed, these lines are not random, to rephrase, not that random. He uses his shadows to the next level, reversing black and white's function, which we see especially in the hair. And yeah, that's correct. That's also why he puts the dark black boxes in the background. His play between the balance of black and white, hard and soft edges are very deliberate and add to the overall asymmetry of the work. Despite so, it's important to notice that he changed his style through the years. He used more digital applications for the finishing touch, and basically adding in more color, while he also experimented with way more contrast by using 50 shades of grey in between.
Tasty.
Yoji Shinkawa does most of the coloring with the digital afterthought. Not all of them, don't get me wrong. Let's just say the majority. That said, his work does well with color, and he got quite crafty on it as well. Especially in this image, I love how he integrated the dark tones. Subtle, yet effective. However, wait a second. Let's not go ahead of ourselves and do some steps back first, because how does he actually decide on how to use shadows? First off, his female characters have these white clean faces compared to males. This is not surprising, as lighter tones make people look more younger. Okay, all fun and games. So does he use some weird reverse psychology? Or are these shadows just to add some artistic touch? No. It's to create tension. Not because Metal Gear is an espionage game. Okay, maybe that is the reason. But in all his art, he puts the lines in the shadows to make you feel the tension of the forms. And yes, normally the dark shadows are to emphasize the highlights, but this man uses them for us to see the stress points in his art. Basically, even in an ink-heavy image like this, we can see the facial features quite well. If you fade them out, his art becomes way less impactful. Shitty even. One thing that I didn't mention yet is that his mecha designs are fantastic, that he's good at both organic and mechanical objects. He even can combine them into one when needed. I mean, Metal Gear is the T-Rex that launches nuclear missiles, for crying out loud. And as a side note, it took him 6 weeks for this design. And he did so by sculpturing racks before he decided with the final art piece. Pretty sick, huh?
Not even close.
And the way he draws imaginatively with his ink work is in my opinion one of his main talents. He can make realistic things come to life with an artistic touch. To frame it differently, he forces your mind to fill in the rest. Which is the most powerful tool an artist could accomplish. To emphasize. People tend to be either big picture orientated or detail orientated and see different things in the same image. And Yoji Shinkawa satisfies both of those spectrums. Probably. Anyways, he's of course a great character designer that is a perfect fit for the genre. He made Snake memorable on multiple levels, with especially noting to his bandana and Soko. Almost all his characters look different but still remain in the same style. Basically, he knows what he's doing. And to back this up, this man can even make Otacon look cool.
Not even close.
I'm light novel author Jeep First, and Yoji Shinkawa is a rare artist who captivates a vast audience. Alongside Hideo Kojima, they revolutionized the game industry, reshaping how storytelling is effectively employed in Metal Gear Solid.